Very good. Just a few minutes to start. Okay, so we are starting our class today. We will now, I heard about the problems you had with Mira board, that was hard to operate on the board. We're not going to use it much today, this time, but for a few seconds, we will switch to the Mira board once again, just to check up if everything is all right. Just to check up how you're feeling today, how is your energy level. I hope you remember the energy battery. Now I will send you the link. I'm placing it in the chat and I will demonstrate my screen. So here it is. Now we are moving a little bit down from the place we worked last time. Here you see the batteries, and the main topic of our meeting today, we're going to speak about agility, about being agile, about working in agile frames, the ups and downs of agile methodology, when it can be used, how it can be used. So please join the Mira board. Go down from the place you did your empathy mapping and stakeholders mapping. Just scroll down and see our meeting today. It's Tuesday, February the 8th, and the topics we're going to discuss together, and two batteries. The very beginning battery and the battery in the end. So please pick up the sticky note. I remind you that they are placed in the board on the left. Write down your name and put it on the level you are feeling now. So 1 is the worst, 5 is the best level. It means that you are full of energy and ready to work today. So please, just a few minutes to work on it while I'm preparing the materials we're going to work later. Okay, so most of you are somewhere on the level 3, 4, I see, or even in the middle between 2 and 3. So maybe some of you would like to share why you feel on this level. It's not very high level, so maybe you would like to share what the problems you are facing, some difficulties. So that we could understand better your mood and your emotional level for today. Well, I see Stephen is on the level 5. That's very good, as well as Erin. Good. Well, I hope that your energy level will rise when we will work on the topic today. The topic is really interesting because agile methods are widely used nowadays in modern project management because they help to work well with unstable world, with different unpredictable circumstances that we face. And this is of great help in the time that we're living now, in the time of the so-called black swans. I hope you, maybe some of you read or heard about the book by Nassim Taleb that is concerned with that kind of circumstances, the unexpected circumstances that we sometimes face and that may influence our business, our life, all the social and economic spheres so much, and that are so unpredictable that we have to in some point live with them, to cope with these challenges that appear, and try to transform these black swans that are appearing to our benefits. So agile methodology is much about means of how to make this uncertain, unpredictable world and the circumstances, the challenges that we face work on our best, work for the best of our business, of our life. Okay, so I think I see once again the problems with Mira. I think it's too overloaded with our actions maybe. So I see most of you have placed your sticky notes. Most of us on the level 3, 4, and 5. That's good. That's good level. I'm happy that no one is on the level 1. Sometimes it happens, unfortunately, and I hope that for those who are on the level 3 now, it won't become worse in the beginning of our class, but I hope it will become better and your energy level will rise. So now I will switch to the demonstration of the presentation. Just a minute, I'm switching it on.
Mhm.
Okay.
Was muss er denn kennen?
So I hope now you see the presentation correctly. You may ask questions during the class if you want to ask something, and we will have some time during the break and in the end. In fact, this class, the class that we are having today, is sort of preparatory for our next meeting that will be next week on Monday, where we will test the instruments, agile instruments, on practice through the game, through such playful mode. We will try the instruments that we're going to talk about today, this time. So maybe this meeting, this class will be less interactive than the others, but we will catch up the next time, next meeting, where you will have plenty of work in groups, plenty of interaction to try to test the instruments that I will describe to you during our meeting today. So what is Agile? What is agility itself? When and how it is used? What benefits it have? It is a very good question to understand why Agile methods appeared, why are they useful, in which type of projects they are useful, when you can use Agile methods. But first of all, to start with, we have to understand what the Agile method itself is and how it works. So Agile is an iterative approach. That is to say, when we work on a project in Agile mode, using Agile methods and tools, we try to work in iterations, in small iterations, while developing our project. It means that we are not diving down into the project from the very beginning of it and dive out of it right in the end. we have some points within the project, because the project normally is not lasting for 1 week or 2 weeks. Sometimes it's several months, half a year, or maybe even 2 years. And of course, it is a long period. And the main benefit of Agile methodology is that iterations that we carry out during the development of our project, because each iteration has some final result, the so-called MVP. We're going to talk about it a little bit later. And it helps us to understand whether we are going right way or not, what can we improve in our in the product we are creating, how we can make our project better. And these small iterations help us, well, we can say, to get feedback faster in a small amount of time and to improve better. In fact, Agile methods appeared and first were applied in IT sphere, in software development, and it was very comfortable and useful to work in Agile frame, because you could get the feedback in a short period of time and improve your software to perform it to your potential customer or to some focus groups, to get feedback and to improve once again, to get feedback and to improve once again, and so on and so forth. It helps us when, especially when the projects are complicated, when we don't have a clear vision, a clear understanding of what we want to get in the end, of how our final product or service should look like. When we don't have this certainty, when we don't have a clear plan of what we have to do during the performance of our project, Agile methods are very good, because we have these small iterations where we can think of what we are doing right, what we are doing wrong, and how we can make the whole project better. So it's what about the Agile methodology, the Agile method is? It means that it is so flexible, that it works with iterations, that it performs small amounts of a project or some pieces of the final project that are called MVP after each iteration, after each iterative process, and we analyze whether this part of a project will work or not, whether it fulfills the needs of our potential customers or not, and how can we make it better, how we can improve our project or service. You see several books for reading that I can recommend to you. If you haven't met with Agile methodology yet, if you have not practiced it in your work, by the way, if you have practiced, if you have some experience in Agile team, if you have tried Scrum, Kanban, or some other Agile methods, please, you may write down in the chat, or afterwards I will give you a word to share your experience with us, whether it was useful, did you like it or not. So if any of you had any experience in Agile methodology, please write down in the chat. And we may discuss it. We may discuss your experience. So if you haven't come across this methodology, if you haven't tried it, I can recommend the books, the literature that you may start with to get acquainted with the method. First of all is the really great book that gives the major understanding of what Agile methodology is based on, is the Lean Startup by Eric Ries. It's a good book to get the understanding of the basic principles on how Agile itself, Agile methods work. because lean methodology is also connected with agile methods, as well as design thinking that we discussed on the previous class. Design thinking is also one of the agile methods, because as you remember, I also told you that in design thinking process, we also work in iterations. We carry out some steps, then go to testing, and if we failed, if we got the feedback that we need to improve our project or product or service, we carry out another one iteration where we try to make our product better. So lean, design thinking, Scrum, Kanban are all come from the family of agile methods. Another book that you can turn to, two books, is Agile Project Management by Stephen Jones and Learning Agile. It's for understanding the basic principles, the basic instruments that you can use working in agile team or working in agile methodology. Now, why agile is becoming popular in modern economy nowadays, in modern project management? What happened, what changed so much that makes agile method of project management sometimes more efficient than traditional methods, or what it is all about? Here you see the development of technologies that are scaled from Middle Ages to nowadays. You see the end up line is 2050, and you see that you see the chart how it's going. That during about 500 years, technologies were developing, of course, but they were slowly rising, and the line was more moving in a horizontal way than upwards. And for the last century or century and a half, we see that the development of technologies became so fast that the line is now mostly moving upwards. We see the appearance of new technologies throughout the years, and we see that most of the technological achievements that we're using today in our everyday life that surround us everywhere appeared within recent 50 years, about 50 years. And nowadays it is becoming even faster and faster. Technologies are developing very fast. Big amounts of innovative products are appearing almost every day. Maybe not all of them become so popular in our modern life. Sometimes some of them become useless in some period, because one day the telephone was invented, and I think we face it nowadays that we mainly use cell phones, smartphones, and not those telephones that are placed in our homes. Well, as for me, for example, I don't have a telephone in my apartment. I don't have it. My smartphone is just enough for me. I don't need anything else. So one day the telephone was a very good, innovative invention. But nowadays it's almost useful because we can easily replace it with other technologies that are present nowadays, and that's why technologies are replacing one another, and today they are developing really fast. This also the scale that shows us differences we face in economic development, in economy, in business models. I know you have already had the masterclass on business models, and I think you discussed various approaches to how to develop your company, how to launch your startup, what is the perfect marketing strategy, what is the perfect business model for your enterprise. And this chart illustrates of how the economic methods and the the picture of economy itself changed within the last about 20-25 years. So we see this rate shows what time it takes for the company to reach the capitalization rate up to $1 billion. The typical companies in 1990s, it took about 20 years for the company to develop to reach the capitalization up to 1 billion. And with the time passing, the time that takes the company to reach this capitalization rate becomes lower and lower. For example, for Google in 1998, it took about 8 years. 8 years and a half to reach this capitalization. For Facebook in 2004, it took only about 5 years, a little bit more than 5 years. For Tesla, it took about 4 years. And for modern companies that appear nowadays, it takes less than 2 years to reach the capitalization of 1 billion. It also affects the economy itself, the economic sphere. On the one hand, it helps the company to develop very fast, and the capitalization helps to get more investments, more resources to develop technological products on the one hand. But on the other hand, this also may add to the unstable situation that we sometimes get in the market when companies get bankrupted, because in fact their capitalization rate does not reflect the real value, the real product services they can give to their customers, to the market, and sometimes it may lead to bankruptcy of the companies or several companies, and to crisis in some spheres of economy. So this trend has its ups and downs, as well as many others, but still it's something we are facing today. Maybe it will change in some period of time, but now the situation is like that. And all of that tells us that nowadays we live in a world that is very fast changing, that gives us less time to think of our strategy, to find the good way to develop our business, our enterprise, that gives us that we are very pressed for time for taking decisions of how to develop our company, how to make it work better. And in this respect, agile methods that are focused on fast decisions, on fast testing, on fast presenting the MVP to the focus groups, on fast improvement and short, quick, numerous iterations is of great help, because it helps us to cope with this competition that we face in the market, to respond to the challenges we face faster than in traditional methods of project management, than in traditional ways of working that companies used, for example, 30 years ago. So now the situation is different, and that's why we need some different ways to cope with the problems. So these are the examples. These are the examples of the approaches that we can use in project management. As we have said, agile methods are based on iterations. They are incremental. So in short period of time, we present some part or some scale of the product or service that we are developing, get the feedback, and go into another iteration. But there is also the method of a big bang, the so-called big bang, when we dive into the project from the very beginning and dive out only in the end with the final result. And meanwhile, when we are developing the project, we have no understanding of whether we are doing it right, whether we're going the right way, what our potential customers think about the products and services we are creating. So this is the example of a Big Bang method. I should give just a remark that I'm not saying it's a bad method of working. I'm not saying that Agile is better. We will talk about it a little bit later. We have to evaluate every time we are getting some project in our work. We have to evaluate which method will be better for this particular project. Sometimes Agile is useful, it is more effective. Sometimes traditional methods of project management will be more effective and more suitable for this particular project. So when I'm describing Agile methods and saying about their advantages, I'm not saying that other methods are not working or they're not so effective. It all depends on the project and the sphere you're working in, on the project you're working on. And every time you have to evaluate which method, what tools to use in your particular project. So these pictures show the example of how we can describe the iterative, the incremental process, and the Big Bang. As you see, the iterative process is when here in the very beginning on the first picture, we see nothing. We have just the forest. On the second step, we already have the whole general vision of what our final product will be like. So 3 houses, the roads between them, but you see the road is well, not so good made. It's like a sketch, for example. It's like, it looks more like a sketch. On the third stage, we add some more details. We make the road better. And on the fourth stage, we get the final product, but we see that generally it didn't change so much. So the general scale of the product we could see from the very beginning, from the second step. We only improved it step by step, made it better, added some more features and options to the final product. So this is the meaning and the basic principles of how iterative process works. Small iterations, with each iteration, we are making our final product better. Incremental approach, the second line, you see in the first picture, there's also just the forest. Nothing is placed here yet. And then we are starting to create our final product step by step. So here on the first picture, you see the house and the road, but the road is made very good. So in fact, this second step may be the final product itself. We don't have to improve anything in it. On the third step, you see another 2 houses are added. On the final fourth step, we see another 1 house added to the picture. But every of these steps is a separate increment of the product, and it can be performed by itself. So we can stop on the step 2, for example, and our investors or the top management of our company may say that it's okay, it's enough, that's just what I wanted. I don't need more houses. 1 house with the road is just enough for me. And in the development of our project, we may stop on this first increment on the step 2, or may add some more parts to our final product that at each of these parts can work as a final product itself. So each increment can be a final product. And the Big Bang is, as I said, is a more traditional method of dealing with projects. It's when, for example, we have the project scaled within 6 months. We dive into the project here on the first step. And on the second, the third step, we don't really see what is going on down there in the project, what is happening to the project team, how the product is or service is developing. We don't get any feedback. We're just doing our job. And we dive out here on the fourth stage with the final product. it's not bad. It's also a good way to work, as I have said, when the final result is clear to us, when we know exactly what our potential customer, the top management of our company, our investors want to get in the end of our project. If we know it, that's quite all right. Because during this period of 6 months, for example, we don't get any feedback. We're just working, and if we made some mistake somewhere in the very beginning, if the plan that we created was not right, if we did not get the needs and wants of our potential customers, our investors, or the top management of the company correctly, it may turn out that here on the fourth step, when we dive out of the project, we understand that the product we did was not what they wanted from us. It's not a very good situation for the team, because you will have to transform your project in some way, but you have already spent much resources, much time on working on that project. So the results may be quite disappointing for the team. So these are the differences between these three ways. I'm hearing the mic is on. I'm hearing somebody else. If you want to ask a question, you are free to do it. I think I'm hearing Francesco, but the sound is not very good. So if, I see. So probably it was just the mic was switched on by mistake. Okay, so if you have questions, be free to ask. You may write down in the chat and I will answer them later, or you may raise hands and I will give word to you. So now we will try to figure out some situations that you will choose for the following project. We will try to guess. So I will ask you to write down in the chat which approach you think is suitable or is best describing some situations we will talk about. Some of them are really practical, depicted from our everyday life. So now we will try to interact a little bit to play this game. Growing a beard, for example, how do you think, which method describes this process better? Is it iterative, incremental, or the Big Bang? Growing a beard. You may write down in the chat, how do you think? Which description is suitable for this process, growing a beard? Iterative, incremental, or Big Bang? So, what are your thoughts about it? Incremental, okay, incremental. Okay, any other ideas? Incremental as well, incremental. Okay, anyone else? As well, incremental. Well, most of you are voting for incremental approach. Okay, why not iterative? Well, I see there are doubts about the iterative approach. Well, as for me, the process we are discussing, they are from everyday life, so they're not business-like process. Sometimes it may be hard to give description, to give correct description to which method of project management it can be referred. But as for me, I would say it's more like iterative approach, because if we were talking about incremental, it meant that the beard would grow, for example, on the right cheek, then on the chin, then on the left cheek, and every part is the ended up final product of the beard. When we're talking about the iterative, it means that it's growing more every day, and we go to trimming, for example, it to make it more and more beautiful, and in the end of I don't know, 5 days, 7 days, a month, half a year, we get the beard of our dream that looks just perfect. So it's, for me, it's just my point. I can agree that it may also look like incremental process when we are saying that the beard of every length may be a final product itself. So small one on the 3rd or 5th day, for example, and a very long beard, for example, after a month or 2 months of growing. Also another increment, another final product. So I can agree with both sides. It's sometimes hard to describe this process correctly, but as for me, I would say that it is more like iterative. Okay, so now the next one. Okay, creating a movie. How do you think creating a movie, which process, which method reflects best the process of creating a movie? It's also not easy to decide. So Steven, I see incremental. Anyone else? What ideas? Incremental. So who else wants to propose your position? Incremental as well. Okay. So, well, I'm asking you to take part. Don't be afraid to make your hypothesis. You're not getting any marks for answering these questions. It's just for the discussion. Well, I agree with the incremental method, Big Bang. Well, we'll discuss maybe sometimes it might become a Big Bang when we're making a movie in chaos, when we don't know exactly what the result, what is going on during the filming, and then finally we get a movie in the very end. But I would agree more with the incremental method, because normally the movie consists of some scenes that are filmed day after day. And we have scene 1, scene 2, sometimes they are filmed in mixed order, not in the timing that they will be placed in the film. And in the end, we put all these scenes together, mix it up, and get the final product. So we can say that every scene is the increment, and it can be the final product on some stage. Maybe where we'll make a clip of out of this scene or something else. Maybe we can make our movie shorter than we planned, and if we place the scenes we have already filmed, that will be quite enough to make this final product. And when we are putting all the scenes together, so we get this picture for the whole movie itself. Okay, so the next example is building a bridge. What about building a bridge? How do you think here? What process is this? Building a bridge. We should understand that it's a complicated technological process. You have to build the columns first, to place them in the water, to find methods to make them carry much weight on them. Iterative, okay, Steven says. Who else? Any other opinions? Iterative, very good, Valerie. I think it's your first answer for today. Iterative, okay. Well, yes, I would agree. That's right. Because to build a bridge, we cannot build it partly. We cannot end up somewhere in the middle of the river. We cannot say that it's the final product and that it's enough. We are not going to carry on this work. So normally building a bridge consists of some iterations when we're making the whole scale of the bridge, the placing the columns, then placing the passing line, then making it better, making it suitable for walking, riding, and so on and so forth. So I would agree that it's an iterative process. And I think the last one is processes designing a Pret-a-Porter collection. So how do you think designing, well, it may be actually anything, designing, I don't know, interior for your living room, designing some technological product, if we're talking of industrial design, for example. So designing anything. How do you think? What it more looks like? Iterative. Okay. Anything else besides Patrick? Big Bang. Okay. Steven? Well, actually, I would agree with this, with both of these points, because once again, it depends on how the work is going on. So normally, it's an iterative process because we make the sketch on the paper, then we pick up some materials, then we place the materials just pinned with the pins. We're not sewing it yet, and only afterwards we are sewing it all together and making a dress. So it looks very much like the iterative approach. When we definitely we cannot wear a dress that is just fixed with pins. So we need to wait for the final product. But sometimes I would agree it might be a big bang, because sometimes when we're designing something, everything might come from sudden, that we get the understanding of what we want to do. We don't know exactly what we are doing. We are trying to mix everything. We're trying this way, another way, and only appear when we with the final result that suddenly comes to our mind. Sometimes it happens, but well, if we're talking more about the process, about designing as a process, it's more like the iterative approach. Okay, so very good. I hope the examples that we tried to carry out right now gave you some more practical based understanding of what these methods of project management are, what are the iterative, the incremental methods, and the method of Big Bang. What we have to say about, I will place the both pictures at the moment. The other methods that can be used and that were used in the very beginning, before the Agile methods appeared is the so-called code and fix. It was, well, we can say prototype of Agile methodology. When we had some requirements, it was, well, why it's called code and fix, it was it first appeared in IT sphere and was concerned with coding. So we had some requirements, we had some expectations of our potential customers about, for example, the service we are making, we are creating as an IT product. Then there was some coding, something was done, something came out, we tested it. If it was successful, it went to release and got the feedback. If it was not successful, it went to recoding, to fixing the problems that we faced during the testing. So it's sort of a prototype of Agile methods that appeared in the very beginning. It's quite simple method. The other method that can be compared with Agile methodology is the so-called classical method named Waterfall. And you see the difference on the picture on the right. Here we have the time scale of the project, and we see that in Waterfall method, we go step by step. First of all, we define the requirements, the expectations of potential customers. Then we build or we create our product or service. Then we make the release, show it to public, to our potential customer. And only afterwards we get the value. Only here on this point we understand whether we were doing right or whether we messed up and didn't meet the expectations of our potential customers. So in fact, we meet with the requirements of the customers here in the very beginning and here in the very end. And we have to evaluate whether the work was done successful or not. Here in the middle, we just carry on working in our project. It's the traditional way. It's, as I have already said numerous times, it is good when we know exactly the result that we have to get in the end of the project. And you see the risk line here. I think you will have the class on risk management as well, and maybe you will talk about the risks of the project in more detailed way, the risks of the business, the enterprise itself. And here, when we analyze the risks of the project according to the method we apply, when we work in traditional project management methods, in Waterfall, for example, you see that risk is riding throughout the whole time that we deal with the project. Why it happens? Because we don't get feedback, and if somewhere here on this step we went the wrong way, and we are creating the project that is not responding to the needs and wants of our potential customer, or the risk that here in the end we won't get the value we have planned is really very high. The situation is a little bit different when we are talking about Agile method, and you see the comparison here down. We are not working step by step throughout the whole timeline of the project. We have these small iterations where we pass the same steps, define the requirements, build, make the project or the product or the service, and make a release. So we show our product or service to the potential customers, get the feedback, and go into the work again. Transfer to the second iteration, the third, the fourth, the 10th iteration. There may be plenty of the iterations. And we see that we get the check of the value after every iteration. So here on this point, we understand whether we are going right way, whether we whether the project or service we are creating will be able to fulfill the needs and wants of our potential customer or not. What do we have to change in our product to make it more successful? And in the second iteration, we analyze our mistakes and try to make our product better. On the third iteration, we do just the same. And here you see that the line of the risks also rises only during the iteration, because here we have a sort of a checkpoint when we are checking if everything is wrong with our project or not. If there is something wrong, we work with this risk, we work on the project, we think how we can improve it. So that's why the risk is not increasing so much as in the waterfall project. And for the projects that where we don't know exactly what we want to get in the end, when we don't have the clear requirements from our top management or from our potential customers, Agile method is working very, very well, because we can improve on every of these checkpoints, and if we notice that we are making some mistakes, we can fix them in short period of time, not waiting to the end of the project like in traditional methods, like in waterfall, for example. So here is also the picture that shows how the waterfall methods and how the agile methods differ. You see, in the waterfall method, we don't make any sketches. We try to make the whole product the final product from the very beginning. And for example, if we're meeting with our potential customer or our top management on this way and show him this picture, the task was to make Kremlin, for example, to draw the picture of Kremlin. When we show the first picture or even the second, our potential customer or the top management of the company will not get any understanding whether it's really Kremlin or not. Well, yes, I think there is a star, something that looks like the head of the Kremlin. Well, maybe it's okay, but when we get the final picture, it may turn out that it was not what our client or our top manager really wanted. So it may turn out on the last step that we didn't meet the expectations. When we're working in agile process, the second line, we are making the sketch, just the sketch of our final product. It's called the MVP. We'll talk, I think, on the next slide about what the MVP is. And even on the first step, our investor, our top manager, or our potential customer may give us the feedback, whether does it look like what he wants to get in the very end, or it's something completely different and not meeting his expectations. Because on the first picture, we can definitely tell, well, yes, this looks like the Kremlin Tower, something like the Kremlin Tower. On the next step, we see that colors already appear, and we also can get feedback. Maybe our client wants not the Kremlin made of red bricks like in Moscow, but maybe he wants the white Kremlin, like, for example, the Kremlin that is situated in Kazan city. They might be different, and we can get this feedback on this step already. And we see the final picture. If we get the improvement here, we may bring our product right to the end. And why Agile method can also be useful, another bonus that we can get from using Agile methodology, is that sometimes our top manager or our potential customer on the first step, when we are showing him just the MVP, just the sketch, may say that, okay, that's enough. That's just the picture of Kremlin I wanted. I don't need it in color. The sketch will be quite all right for me. And it helps the team of the project to save its time, to save its resources, because the product they made on the first step is just enough for their client, for their potential customer, or for the top manager. It may be useful sometimes because we may spend much time making the final product perfect as we think to our understanding, but it may be not necessary to the client, to our client. What we think should be made up with the final product. So sometimes the first step may be enough, and it saves the team a lot of money and resources. Now, I have already said a few words about when the waterfall and agile methods can be used in practice when we're working with real projects. This is the Ralph Stacey matrix of complexity. And in fact, to find out which method is more suitable for this or that project, we have to analyze several factors. First of all, the requirements or the business goals, it's the line on the left that comes the vertical arrow, and the technologies or the methods, the tools that we will use is the line that comes in horizontal way. And if we analyze in which conditions, in which circumstances we are working with our project, what the requirements are, what tools we have to meet the needs and wants of our potential customers or the management of the company, we can outline several spheres on this diagram. So, for example, when the requirements are quite clear, when we understand exactly what our clients want from us, when the technology, the methods that we use are well known, so we know how we will how we will create the final product. In this case, the waterfall method is very good because we have a clear understanding of what we have to do. We don't need to meet with our client every week to check up his requirements and expectations because it's quite clear, and we can dive into the work on project for 2 or 3 months. Work there without turning out our heads to the customer, and then just present the final result and get the feedback at that moment. So if the requirements are clear and if we understand how we can reach the requirements of the customer, waterfall method is very good. Another way is, for example, when the requirements are not so clear, we do not understand exactly what we will get in the end, but we know exactly how we can meet these expectations, that we have enough resources. Waterfall will also work good. When we're talking about agile methods, they are placed in this sphere. It's the upper right corner. We work with agile methods when we talk about vague requirements, when we don't know what we want to get in the end, what our customer wants to get in the end. And it's quite a common situation when the client comes up to your company, your potential customer comes up to your company and describes some problem that he needs to solve within his business or social life, but at that moment he doesn't know what product or what service he needs exactly to help him solve this problem. So his requirements are vague. He knows the problem he wants to solve. He knows that you potentially can offer him some products and services that can help him with this, but what these products and services may be, he doesn't know it yet. And it's quite a common situation. And in this case, agile methods are very good because during every iteration, we may test different hypotheses, show the MVP of the final product to our customer, get the feedback, and get the understanding whether it's what he wants, whether it's what he expects or not. The other way is almost the same when the requirements are quite clear, when we understand what the customer wants, but we don't know yet what methods, technologies we can use to create this sort of project or service. So it is concerned especially with innovative products. when sometimes the technology is not well developed yet, and we have to search for some new technologies, some new ways to make this product. So in this case, agile methods are also very good because we can test different techniques, different methods, different technologies to get the feedback from testing to understand whether it works or not, and go to testing anything else. And the worst situation probably is when we have vague requirements. We don't know what we want to get in the end, and we don't know how we can reach it, which technologies, which methods we can apply. In fact, it's called the chaos situation, the situational chaos, and actually. Agile is also not a magic pill in this sphere. It is not always solving this situation. It is a very hard situation, but in some ways it helps to move it somewhere down or somewhere to the left, for example, to make the requirements a little bit clear, or to find technologies that potentially can be used. So in some ways, Agile may not solve the problem of the chaos itself, but may help to make it well, less uncertain, to make the situation less uncertain. So here on the right, you may read how to evaluate. I have already told you that when you come across some project, you have to fulfill. You have to analyze which method, which methodology can be better applied to this particular project. And you have to evaluate whether traditional methods, waterfall is better, or whether it's agile that will give more efficiency to this project. And you have to think of what this project is like, of whether you know exactly the requirements of your customer or your top manager, whether the project is a long or short-term project. For example, if the duration is less than 4 months, then waterfall methods is quite okay, because you're not wasting, for example, half a year or a year working on a project to understand that it's not working. 4 months is not such a long period. And of course, when you know the requirements, the technology, the circumstances you're working in, waterfall method will be quite okay. Agile method is good when we are in the situation of high uncertainty, when we don't know exactly what solutions we can offer, when we work in the circumstances of high volatility, the technology is unknown, and when the project is long enough so that the risks will increase with every month we're working on the project. And in this way, to work on the risks, to decrease the risks, we may use agile methods just to get the feedbacks on some checkpoints of our project. Now, I think before turning to the specific agile instruments, agile methods, maybe we should make a short break, because we are working more than an hour at the moment. So I suggest that we go for a 5 minutes break, and then return back to talk about the specific methods and tools of agile methodologies that we can use in our work. So 5 minutes break. I will try to place the timing, and we are coming back here in 5 minutes. Okay, then, so now we are slowly returning to our class, and we will carry on talking about the methods and frameworks that are named within the Agile family of methods. So I hope all of you have returned. I see your cameras on. By the way, thank you for that. It's pleasant to work with live screens and not only with the black screens all around. So I'm switching back to the presentation. Okay, now it's the place we stopped, and now we will talk about some specific methods, tools of Agile methodology that can be applied while you're working on a project. And first of all, I must say that there are numerous methods that can be called Agile methods. As I have said, design thinking is there. Scrum is there, Kanban, XP, Crystal, and many others. For some time, they existed separately. They all had basically common principles, but they were absolutely different methods, and they were not united into some specific methodology. And in 2001, the authors and the leaders of these methodology schools of these different methods gathered together and agreed that most of these methods have basically common principles and foundation, and can be united according to these basic principles into the so-called family of Agile methods. And you see here the umbrella method is the Agile umbrella is depicted that unites all these different methods together. And in 2001, and they created the so-called Agile Manifesto. You see here the link. It will be clickable in the presentation, so you may turn to the website where you can find the text of this Agile Manifesto. It is translated in many different languages. I think probably you will find yours there, because really many languages, many translations are presented there. Of course, it is placed in English there as well. And you may read it in a more detailed way. I will not quote the Agile Manifesto in general, but we should say that there are two basic values, and the representatives of different methods agreed that they are common for any of Agile method, whether it's XP, whether it's Kanban, Crystal, Scrum, or any other. And these four values are the basis of any Agile method that is existing. So first value that was named is that individuals and interactions over process and tools. So it means that in Agile methodology, in any Agile method, individuals, a person, and interactions, the process acting within the individuals are more important than the process itself and the tools are made. So that is to say, probably Agile methods are less bureaucratic than other methods of project management, because we, of course, we have some requirements, we have some tools agreed, but if anything changes within the interaction between people, between the participants of the process, it means that we may change the tools as well, we may change the process itself. It doesn't mean that we don't pay attention to the process and to the tools that we are using while creating our project, but it means that the personality, the person, the individual, and interactions between them are more important. If you remember, during the class of design thinking, we also talked much about that the person, the individual, your potential customer is always in the center. Everything is working around it, around the person. The second value is working software is more important over comprehensive documentation. It may not be relied only to the software, but to the product itself, to any product or service. It means that our final product, our final result is more important than the comprehensive documentation we can show, we can write down. It means that if we're having the deadline tomorrow, for example, and we have to present our product to our potential investor, potential customer, or to the management of the company, and we have neither the product, neither the working software, the so-called working software, neither the documentation, we will choose to work on the product, to work on the software. Because in Agile framework, it is more valuable to show to your potential customer or to your management not only a good written document of what your product will be like, of how it will work, how it will meet their needs and wants, but it's far more better to show the working prototype. And afterwards, it doesn't mean that we don't fill any documentation on the project, that we skip this part. Of course, we're working on it as well, but it means that first of all, we have to perform the prototype of our final product. The product is first, the documentation is second. Afterwards, if everything is okay, if the product is accepted, we may switch to writing the good documentation of how it works, and how it meets the needs and wants of the potential customer. The third value is means that customer collaboration is more important over contract negotiation. It doesn't mean that we don't have any contracts at all, that we don't agree some basic points. Of course we do. Of course we have a contract when we're starting to work on the project, on any project. But it means that if interacting with our customer, analyzing the market, analyzing the needs of the customer, we understand that something needs to be changed in our contract. We can't change it because I think no one wants to make the product that will not be useful for the potential customer only because in the contract it's written like that, it's written that way. And Agile methods are talking about flexibility, are teaching us to be flexible, to change the points, the positions that were agreed in the contract if the situations, the market, the needs of our potential customer requires to make these changes. And the fourth value that is named in Agile Manifesto, responding to change over following a plan. Well, in fact, it meets all the previous three values that I named. It is very important to check up the situation with our project, to check up the needs and wants of the potential customers and investors, to check up whether we are going the right way, whether we are still meeting their demands, and to make changes if it is necessary, even if we had a plan before. And of course, it doesn't mean that when we start an Agile project, we don't plan it. Of course, we do. And later we will talk about Scrum as one of the Agile methods. And we will talk about planning the Scrum process. It's also quite a complicated way to plan the Agile project. And of course, we have this plan in the very beginning. But if the situation changes, if the customer's needs change, if the interests of our investors or our management change, we have to be flexible to respond to these changes and to change our product or to change the way we are carrying out the project itself. So we always have to think of being flexible. The Agile Manifesto also contains 12 main principles. I won't read up them to you. You will have a chance to see them in the presentation or on the site where the whole Agile Manifesto is presented. But in general, these principles are more detailed understanding of the 4 basic values that I outlined to you on the previous slide. If you read these 12 principles, you will see that they are meeting one of the 4 values we talked about before. So now to the MVP. During the class, during the lecture, we talked much about presenting the MVP, creating the prototype, presenting the MVP in the end of every iteration. So now we will try to understand what the MVP itself is, what is a prototype, how they differ. MVP is the name for minimum viable product. So in fact, it's something that we can show to our potential customer, to the management, to our investors, that depicts the some characteristics, some basic characteristics of the final product, but it may not be so good, so perfect as the final product should be. So this is the simple example with hamburger. For example, when how the MVP may help us, how it can be helpful to us when we are dealing with some project. For example, our potential customer, we know that the need of our potential customer is to get some food. He's hungry. He wants to eat something. He turns out to our company demanding for some food, for something to eat. And we think to ourselves that, well, we can make this very good and tasty hamburger, this perfect hamburger. But instead of diving into making the hamburger from the very beginning right to the end and giving the hamburger to our potential customer, we first of all try to test some hypotheses that we are placing before ourselves. So we have to check, first of all, whether hamburger is really what our customer wants to eat, or maybe not. And we present some sort of MVP to him. You see, it's not such a beautiful hamburger as the one we see on the right, but still we can say by the picture that it's a sort of a hamburger, something like that. We can show it to our customer and ask whether it's what he wanted, whether it's the product he wants to get in the end. And on this point, when we present this hamburger to our customer and test the hypothesis that hamburger is what he wants to eat, we may get very different feedback from our potential customer. For example, he may say that it's quite all right, but he would like some greenery, some vegetables to make it better. And that's a good way. We go into second iteration, add some vegetables, add some cheese, green salad, and get this final product that we present to our customer, and he is happy. And we are happy that we managed to fulfill his demand. The other answer we can get is, for example, that this is what he wanted, and this is quite enough, that we don't have to put any vegetables, cheese, nothing else. This just the bread and meat is what he wanted. He doesn't want any additional ingredients, and that's also a very good result. As I have said, in this way we are saving much money and much time and resources on making the final product. So it's such a perfect situation when the first MVP meets the needs and wants of our potential customer. That's very good for the project, for the team of the project. And the other answer that we can get, the feedback that we can get from our potential customer is, for example, that he's a vegetarian and he doesn't eat meat at all. And this is also a very good situation, because imagine if we dived into the work on the cooking the perfect hamburger. We could spend lots of time, ingredients on making the final product like depicted on the right picture. And afterwards, get this understanding that our potential customer is vegetarian, he doesn't eat meat, and hamburger is just nothing that he wanted to have as his lunch, for example. It's a bad situation. And if we get this understanding here on the stage of MVP, when we spend not so much time, not so much resources on creating this MVP, is a good way to think of what else we can offer to our potential customer to work on it. And in second iteration, to work out some other hypotheses and to offer, I don't know, some green salad, for example, for him as a lunch. So it's also the possible way of developing this whole situation with the project that we're working on. And the MVP, in fact, helps us to test the hypothesis that we think is right, but may be absolutely wrong for our potential customer or for our management. And it helps to test this hypothesis quickly, without involving much resources on working on it, without involving much time to make this MVP. If you remember, during the design thinking class, we talked that MVP should be fast and cheap. The faster and cheaper we can make our MVP, the better, because more resources we save, more time we have for improvement. And you see the phrase here, fail fast, learn fast. It's also one of the rules of Agile methodology, of iterative methods, of using the MVP approach. Even if we fail, even if we understand that the product we wanted to make was completely wrong and didn't meet the wants of our customer, we get this understanding relatively fast, and we have more time to improve, to make the product or service that our customer really wanted. So the faster we fail, the faster we learn, the more time we have for improvement. Now a little bit about Scrum. We're going to talk about Scrum and test this instrument, Scrum as well as Kanban, in more detailed way next time. On Monday, we're going to meet and try these instruments in a game mode, in a playful mode. But now just few theoretical words about what the Scrum method in the family of Agile methods is about, and how it works. How you can organize the team in Scrum framework. And these are the few books or literature, pieces of literature that I recommend you to read, because the Scrum Guide is not exactly the book, it's really the guide of how Scrum is working, what you have to do to implement Scrum framework in your company, for example, or in your project. So Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland, who are the authors of the Scrum Guide. You see here is the edition of 2017. You may search for, I think there were later editions, and it's renewing in some periods of time. So you may just Google the Scrum Guide, and normally it's widespread, and you can easily find it on the internet. And in fact, these are the rules, the basic rules, the basic steps that can help you to implement Scrum in your company or in your project. And another book is also the book written by one of the authors, Jeff Sutherland, Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time. So it's also about the method, about the framework of how to work in it, and how it helps you to make the process in your enterprise, your company, more efficient with the help of the tools of Scrum. Now about the Scrum, what it is, what it contains of, what is like. Scrum is not a very flexible instrument. I mean, it's flexible as the in its contents, working in Scrum is flexible itself, or working throughout the project in Scrum is flexible. It helps to be flexible, but the Scrum as a tool is not flexible. It has some basic rules and principles, and we cannot just skip some of the rules. So we have to strictly follow all the basic rules and principles that are put together like a Scrum framework. Of course, in our work, if something is not comfortable for us, for our specific project, for our team, because there are many peculiarities, we can skip some stages, we can skip some rules, for example, but in this way, we may not call it a Scrum framework. It may also be the Agile method, it may also be some of the Agile approaches, but not Scrum. So Scrum is, well, rather static and well, conservative, maybe we can say in some ways. There are 3 artifacts, 5 events, and 3 roles in every Scrum process, and these are 3 blocks that we have to set up in our company or in our project team to say that we're working in Scrum framework. The events, I will start, I think, with the, no, I think I will start with the roles first. So 3 main roles that are present in Scrum process is the product owner, the one who is dealing with the product, the one who is communicating with the investor or the potential customer, who gets the deepest understanding of what the final product should be like. The second role is the role of Scrum Master. It's I cannot say that it's the leader of the team lead, but it's the role that helps to manage the Scrum process, that helps the team to work in Scrum framework, to fulfill all the rules and requirements of the Scrum process, to fix the artifacts, to carry out the events of Scrum method. So it's the person who is responsible for the stable process of working in Scrum framework. And of course, the team is the third role, the member of the team that can be very different, that can vary in their knowledge, value, in their experience. Normally, Scrum team is multifunctional, so different people are involved in project. It's better for the project if it works like that. If we have people with different competence, with with knowledge in different spheres. So all the members of the team generally play the same role in Scrum process, but may play different roles in the project itself. Then the events, the main 5 events of Scrum process. First, it's the backlog refillment. It's well, the understanding of the basic requirements to the final product. Sprint review, because we are working in Scrum framework in small sprints. Sometimes it's 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks. Normally, it's recommended that the sprint was no longer than 2 weeks. It's optimal length from 2 to 4 weeks. 2 weeks is the best according to, well, my experience, for example, because it's enough to make some increment of the final product, to make some MVP, but it's not too long to get the feedback faster. Then another event is sprint planning. As we have sprints, we have to plan them. Retrospective and daily Scrum. I will talk about these instruments on the next slide. We're going to talk in more detailed way how it all works. And the artifacts is something that we may fix, is something material that we may fix in the Scrum process. So it's the product backlog, it's the basic vision and requirements of the final product. The sprint backlog, it's the basic aims we have to achieve during every sprint, and the product increments is the MVP, is something that we present to our potential customer, to our investor, or to our manager in the end of every sprint. Now, how Scrum works? How Scrum works, which stages we have to go through. And in fact, we already talked about it, that Scrum, as any other Agile methodology, is concerned with iterations, with small iterations, and going round and round in cycles until we get the result we were expecting. So in fact, it is the so-called Pdca cycle. It may be familiar to you not only in regard of Agile methods or Scrum framework. It is used in many other spheres, in many other fields. And in fact, it is also applied, this Pdca cycle is also applied in a Scrum framework. So first we start with is why it's Pdca. You see, it's the starting letters of the four main words. P is for planning. So first of all, we plan. Then we create something, some MVP or some product service. Then we check. So for example, we place our prototype for testing. And then we act, that is to say, we get the feedback, we analyze the feedback and make the decisions of how we're working on our project later. Then we go to another cycle of Pdca: plan, do, check, act, and so on and so forth, till we get the product or service that fills the requirements of our potential customer or of our management. And this is about the Agile framework of the whole scheme of how these artifacts, how these team roles, and how these the actions we have to carry out in Scrum framework work all together. So we said that there are three main roles. You see them over here: the product owner, the team, and the Scrum Master, who is responsible for the process, for the carrying out of the whole process. The product owner is responsible for this connection of the team with the investor, with the potential customer, of the understanding of the product, the general understanding of the final product. And the team is responsible for the result of the work in a certain period of time. So the artifacts, as we have said, contain, first of all, the product backlog. And in fact, it's the first step that we have to take when we are starting a project in a Scrum framework. We have to underline what are the main requirements to the product are, what our management or our potential customer wants to get in the very end of the project, what the final product or service will be like. The requirements, features, user stories. I will say a few words about what the user story is and how it can be used for the development of the project. So here, on the very beginning, when we start the project, we have to fix all about the product we want to get in the end. And it is called the product backlog. Then we carry on to the sprint planning. We carry out a special meeting where we plan how we will work throughout the first sprint. As I have said, normally there are several sprints in the project. Normally they are not longer than from 1 to 4 weeks. the golden middle is 2 weeks. It's the optimal length of the sprint, but sometimes, according to the peculiarities of the project or some circumstances, they may be shorter or longer. It is also agreed on the stage of sprint planning. So here we decide how many sprints we will have in our project, how long every sprint will be, and how we will work throughout these sprints with the whole team. Then when we selected a starting point, when we decided how many sprints and how long the sprint they will be and how long the sprint will be, we make the backlog for our first sprint, the so-called sprint backlog. This backlog is formed from the product backlog that we made on the first step. But this backlog, the sprint backlog, contains not all the requirements, all the features, and all the actions we have to do by with the final product or to make the final product. But here we place only the tasks for the first sprint. So we decide, for example, that our first sprint will be analytical and we will have to analyze the market. And here we place some tasks concerned with market analysis, for example. And we also here discuss and point what will be the final result, the so-called increment or MVP in the end of this sprint. So, for example, it may be some analytical survey or some review or some diagram, anything, some part of the product. It depends on what the sprint is devoted to and what final result we can show here in this particular sprint. So we pick up the tasks from the product backlog that we will carry out within this 1, 2, 3, or 4 weeks as the period that we have chosen as a sprint period. And we discuss, agree within the team of what we will perform in the end of this sprint to product owner and to our potential customer, investor, or to our management. Then we dive into the sprint. So we go throughout working with the project itself, creating the final product or the increment that we decided to be final for this sprint. And within this period of 1 or 4 weeks working, we every day we carry out the daily Scrum meeting. Normally it's a short meeting. It is recommended to make it no longer than 15-20 minutes, just to discuss what the team is working on, what was made yesterday, what problems the team faced. Maybe there are some blocking factors that we have to work on as a team. Maybe one teammate depends on the work that is performed by the other teammate, and we have to enforce someone to work faster or to give some assistance to him. So we briefly, shortly discuss all that was achieved yesterday, all the problems we faced, and our plans for this day, and go on working. These daily Scrum meetings may be arranged in different ways. The team and a Scrum Master agree with each other how it will be more comfortable, how it will be more useful. Sometimes it is held up, these meetings are held up in the morning, just to outline the tasks for the day. Sometimes, on the contrary, they are held up in the evening, in the end of the working day, to sum up what was made and to make plans for tomorrow, to plan the next day. It depends on the agreements that were reached within the team and with the Scrum Master. In different projects, in different teams, the time when the daily Scrum meeting is held may vary from time to time. So it's different. There are no special rules of when it has to be held, but it is recommended that it shouldn't be very long. So 15-20 minutes, no longer. And it is important that it was held every day. The systematic approach is very important as well. In the end of the sprint, so when, for example, we chose 2 weeks as the duration of our sprint, in the end of these 2 weeks, we have the sprint review, where not only the team of the project is present, but also the product owner. Sometimes the investor, the focus group may be present, management of the company, or other stakeholders. And there we present the increment that we worked on during our sprint. So this final result, for example, if it was analytical sprint and we carried out the market analysis, it may be some analytical research that we present to our management or to their potential investors. So we present this final increment that we pointed here when we planned the sprint backlog. Afterwards, we go to the step of planning the sprint backlog and go to the second sprint, the third sprint, and so on and so forth. In the end of the project, we hope that the team manages to create the final product or that is fulfilled, that meets the requirements placed here in the product backlog. And in the end, we present the final product and service to our potential customer, our management, or our potential investor. And after that, the job on the project is not finished yet. I should say that generally the job on the project is finished, but the project itself is not finished yet, because important part is the sprint retrospective or the project retrospective that we carry out normally after every sprint and in the end of the project, where the team discusses of how the work was done, what difficulties they met, what improvements they can make for their future work, what was right, what was wrong, what can be improved, what can be made better. It's just sharing their experience that we gained through working together, through working on some particular project that can be useful for our future work together as a team. So a retrospective is very important. It is maybe not so informative. It's more emotional, where we can express some expectations that were not fulfilled during the realization of the project. We may express some viewpoints of how to make the process itself better or anything else. We may share something we are proud of in the teamwork. So it is also good. These meetings are also good and important for the team dynamics to make teamwork more efficient in the future. It helps in emotional way to arrange the work in the team more properly. So this is the basic way of how Scrum framework works, how it is carried out, what steps we should go. The scheme may be a little bit complicated and mixed up, but in fact, because it consists of several sprints, iterations, and we're going round and round, it looks like this, a little bit messed up. But I hope it was at least somehow clear of what to start with, how to carry on, and how to place the main steps of Scrum frameworks in your everyday practical work. In more detailed way, all the rules and how all these actions can be carried out, you may read in Scrum Guide. It's written there in a very, very detailed way. So I think maybe it will make more clear for you the way of how the Scrum framework works. And just one word in the end, and we will switch to the mirror board to place our energy battery. I have said several times about the user story that we may also place here in the product backlog. here, because we may fix not only the vision of the final product, not only its requirements and features, but also the user story. What is the user story? I have told you that sometimes our clients don't come to us with the demand to create some specific product. Sometimes they come with the problem they came across and they don't know how to solve it, and they think that our company potentially can make some product and service to help them solve their problem. And in fact, this description of the problem our potential customer came across is called the user story. So, for example, when I come to the company and say, I, as a person, as Svetlana Tatarinova, want some service that will make communication through the screen with my students more interactive and more effective, so that the students will be more interested in attending my lectures, for example. So that is my user story. I can come to some company who is making services like Zoom, Mira, Menti quiz or something like that with this problem, and they may think of some solution that will be suitable to solve the problem I came across. And the user story, when we write down the user story together with our potential customer, with our focus group, when we try to fix all their demands, needs, and wants into a user story, we have to think of 6 major points, checkpoints of how this user story should look like. It should be the points, the position that we express in this user story should be independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, and testable. That is to say, we shouldn't write the book about the problem of our customer. It should be quite short, understandable. We should understand what the problem is. We should understand why this problem arises. We should understand what potential solution our client, our potential customer wants, and in this way we can base our final product or our service that we would perform on this user story, and the whole project, the whole backlog may be based on the user story of some potential customer or some group of the customers. So that is it for today. We are in time. We will continue talking about Scrum methods, and Kanban method is another one method that we're gonna regard during the next meeting. And during the next meeting, we will play some games, try to use some tools of Scrum framework, of Kanban method, to practice how it can be applied in real life, in real projects. So this meeting today was not so interactive, but the next one, I promise you, will be more interesting, and in a game, in a playful mode, we will try some of the instruments of Agile methodology. So if you have any questions, you are free to ask. Meanwhile, I'm stopping the presentation and switching to the Miro board. You have the link in the chat. Appa, I think I will send it once again. I will try to send it once again, so that it would be easier for you. So once again, the link to the Miro board. And please place your energy level on the battery. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, you may ask. I will be glad to answer your questions. Yes, Erin, please, I see your hand. Please, you're welcome.
Good evening, Miss. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, I can hear you well.
Okay, so I want to ask a question about the Agile. I want to ask, is Agile a framework or methodology? Thank you.
Agile is, in fact, a methodology. I would not even say that it's a methodology. It's the family of methods, the so-called Agile umbrella that unites several methods that, meet these four basic values that were placed in Agile Manifesto as the four values. So I think it's closer to methodology than to framework, but in fact, it's the family of methods, several methods united under these four basic values. And as for frameworks, Scrum, for example, is a framework. So it's just the guide of how we can work in the project from the very beginning to the very end, according to the steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So do like that and get the best results you may get. This is a framework. Agile itself unites several frameworks, several tools, and several methods in one unity. So it's more like methodology.
Okay, I'm really understand. Thank you, Miss.
Okay, thank you. Maybe anyone else wants to ask some questions? So now I see almost the same picture as was in the very beginning. Our points are 3, 4, and 5. Well, that's good. I'm glad that no one has lowered down his energy to the levels 2 or 1. That's already great. Well, I see maybe someone. Let us compare. So we have we see some changes. Some of you just changed places. Someone's energy rose up. For some of you, it went down. That's quite normal. That's okay. Very good. So I hope our meeting today was at least a little bit useful for you, for your future practice, for your future work. And we will carry on talking about Agile methods, Agile tools on Monday next week. We will try some of the instruments. You will experience yourself how to work in Kanban frame. And we will share your expressions, your opinions of whether it was useful, whether it would be useful for you to work, for example, in your practice right now, maybe in company you're working in, or in the projects you're working on. And I thank you all for your attention today and for your involvement. I wish you a good day or evening, maybe. Now in about half an hour, you will have a cultural program, I suppose. So keep in touch in WhatsApp chat. Wait for the messages from Maria or Lada. They will inform of what the cultural program will be today. And thank you once again. See you next week. And all the best for all of you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
See you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. See you.